Hey guys, and welcome back to the Citadel with Daniel M. Today I am bringing you a game from our league. What we did is we had 10 players, everyone got drawn a faction at random, and then every week of the league they had to play a different agenda for that faction. So this week we have got Barrie on the left playing Tyrell Fealty, and on the right we have got Richard, who got drawn Nightswatch, and he's playing Lords of the Crossing, a very unusual build, which is why I filmed this today. Richard has actually, at this point of recording the voice, is ahead of our league with Nightswatch. He seems to favour a really angry build of Nightswatch using Yoren and Varys, because he, as you will have seen in previous videos, normally likes to play Greyjoy, so doesn't really have the patience normally for the wall. Barrie's a bit of a casual player for Thrones, but let's get into it. Barrie has set up the an Arbor Knight with Mare and Heat, whereas Richard has set up the Old Forest Hunter, an Unsworn Apprentice, Shadow Black Tower, and the King's Road. So, while I said Richard normally likes to play quite an angry Nightswatch, that Shadow Black Tower would normally suggest to me that he's playing something slightly more defensive. However, I think it's such a good card that you can play it out of anything. If you've got it, so long as you can win a challenge on defense, you can really neutralize their characters. Barrie showing his hand for us, thank you very much. Ooh, Richard showing us cards that we don't often see, things like Jon Snow. So each week you knew who you were going up against, you knew their main house, but you had no idea what banner they were taking. So for example, Rich, knowing he was going up against Tyrell, knew that he could probably play Jon Snow because he's not got a risk of Dracarys, which is the thing that Jon Snow really normally hates. However, he had no idea what banner Barrie was going to bring. Locally speaking, as I said, Barrie plays Thrones quite casually, but is really into Conquest and runs a lot of the tournaments for us. He's part of the pair of brothers who are the kind of heads at the Guardians of Tyr, so it's good to get him on the show and see how he does in this matchup. I think it'll be quite eventful. I think the big question, strategically speaking, will be how aggressive Richard is with his build. If it's a wall deck, Barrie may struggle unless he gets enough renown on the board, because just getting your power challenges off aren't impactful enough, don't get you enough steam rolling to contend with the wall and with the Nightswatch build. However, as soon as you get some renown, you can get multiple power each turn, you can outrace the wall far more easily, which Tyrell are in a good position to do. So Richard played Heads on Spikes, which I've seen him do quite a lot recently. He really likes it as an opener, just get that power early, but also get that high initiative. And he hit Randall, which is very upsetting for Barrie. But he did play Trading, and hopefully he's got something else in his hand that he's going to be able to play out with that. But if his aim, which I imagine it was to use that Randall, play out that Randall and hopefully get maybe a dupe on him, or maybe get Marjorie out, get some kind of support characters out for Randall. Oh, and he's got another Randall in his hand. So that Heads on Spikes has completely neutered, not only killing Randall, but also neutering that other card in his hand, which is quite upsetting. So that's a really good opening play for Richard. And because Barrie gave him that money with trading with him Potoshi, Richard has been able to get Jon Snow out. So now that trading Potoshi has been out for quite a while, I've kind of got mixed feelings about it. I agree with everyone, yes, it's an amazing card. Yes, economy wins you games because characters are so key, and your key characters, your big characters, are so impactful on the board. However, the more I've seen it played and the more I've played with it, the less I like it as an opener. because so often what happens is you play it, yes, you get a big character out on the board, but what you end up doing is you're giving your opponent, who has played probably either a card with a greater impact, a plot with a greater impact, or a plot that is stabilizing them in their first turn more, and you're giving them almost as much money as you have. I mean, if they play a Calm over Westeros, they end up with 8 gold, so they had a Rose Road or a King's Road on setup. They're on 9 gold, maybe 10, 11 with the King's Road discount. They are effectively getting just as much gold as you are. What this then means is when they've got their starting hand, they really can just shit it all out and just get it all out onto the board. So for me, one of the plays I've seen recently is someone who opens with trading, hoping to go second, and then will just play their Varys. And they will give them all the gold, let them shit out their hand, and then play out a Varys, and do it that way. The other time I really like it is to hold it back, whittle down the hand a bit more, and use it to play some of those bomb characters like Miriam Azdur in some of the later rounds, hopefully. Or use it after you have Varysed later in the game to help you bounce back quicker than they can, hopefully because you've whittled down their hand a bit. Anyway, moving on to marshalling. We can see that Barrie has marshalled the new power to the new military intrigue knight, killing the old forest hunter. So Richard won't be able to get gold by discarding cards, and he's got the hedge knight. So at the minute, it kind of looks like he's got a knight's kind of power rush build going on, which could struggle if Richard gets really aggressive with that Nightswatch deck. So that's Barrie just asking about what the Shadow Black Tower does. Richard just explaining it to him. As I said, Barrie isn't as familiar with all of the cards because his main game is definitely Conquest. So in this first round, as Barrie, I'd definitely like to see him push through a military challenge to kill off that Unsworn Apprentice, just to keep Richard's board kind of dialed back a little bit, but we'll see. My imagining, because he's playing the Crossing banner, that maybe he's not playing the kind of Varys Yoren module, but maybe still playing a slightly kind of alternate aggressive build using Jon Snow to buff up some of those other challenges. So Barrie opposing a military challenge with Benjen, with the Hedge Knight, and then the Hedge Knight died. I suppose his thinking was, well, I might as well use it to oppose it, because if I don't oppose it, he's just getting extra power anyway, and the character's dying anyway, so I might as well get a use out of it while he's there. And that's one of the things I like to see people doing, is making sure they're using their board quite efficiently. Richard pushing through an unopposed power challenge with the Unsworn Apprentice, and then getting his crossing power off with Jon Snow. See, now, I remember I was talking to Richard and Barrie about this game. There's a lot of back and forth and some things I might have to talk through. I know Barrie got a little bit confused about Jon Snow and the fact that when he's standing, contributing his strength to challenges, and then what's strength of the challenge because of the reduction of crossing or the increase because of crossing. So there'll be a bit of back and forth about that confusion. Barrie losing a Tears of Bliss out of his hand, maybe hoping if he got a military challenge off and then getting an intrigue challenge off to kill off Benjen, which while giving Richard power would have stripped him of that kind of impactful character. Killing it on your terms rather than the controller's terms is quite a key thing, I think. Controlling when they get that power is really important. So Barrie's playing Bury the Maiden Fair to look at his own deck. I'm not sure why. I assume he's maybe playing it just to stack his deck ready for next turn, because I can't see that he's got any draw out on the board necessarily straight away. So in this matchup, this is an odd, interesting matchup and not one that I've seen very often. I don't think there is necessarily a favoured player. Richard very kindly showing us his hand. He's got Sirio there and he's got a Milk of the Poppy. I suppose he's probably holding on to that milk until he sees maybe Marjorie, because she's going to be very nice to blank. Sirio will be quite nice kind of in opposition, giving some of those Nightswatch chads kind of an extra military icon, giving them stealth to kind of force through challenges in return. Now, again, having talked to Barrie after this game, I think I know what he's going to do with this plot phase, and hopefully it'll be quite interesting. Barrie is obviously, as you can obviously see, playing without card sleeves, and yes, that does hurt me, as mentioned when we were seeing Ben play previously. However, because this league has had us building so many different decks, building a different banner every single week, it has meant that we have got some players who have been playing without sleeves just because for deck building ease, so I can understand it a bit more. Bill is pulling the strings, and he's going to play Richard's Heads on Spikes. Richard taunting him, telling him that he's only got one character in his hand, which is that Sirio that we saw. Just determining who's first player first, though. Richard's calling military on his Come Over Westeros, which I really like. And Barrie getting that aim on. So Richard had lied, because he does have a Sirio, if I can remember correctly from seeing his hand. But Aemon is dead, which is really nice against Nightswatch, because if Richard can get that Aemon out on the board, he can really nullify military challenges. What we saw there was a Taking the Black. Now, this is obviously quite a tricksy Nightswatch build, and Barrie's going to have to be quite careful, because if he's playing Taking the Black, I'm imagining he's probably also playing Watchers on the Wall to whittle down Barrie's board. So it'll be quite interesting to see what happens this challenge phase and how much money, how much gold Richard saves, and whether he's going to want to play that Taking the Black this round, or if he's going to save it for later, because he could take control of that 5-cost military intrigue knight. But he's decided to play a ranging party. Sorry. So what we've seen on the left-hand side is Barrie playing Lummus. Not one of the maesters you see that often. Not a favoured maester, but Barrie is obviously playing him for a reason, because he's got him duped up. Personally, I would prefer to see a Marjorie or something else. I think for me he's really difficult at the moment, because he's a 3-cost in a first snow meta. I suppose though, because this is a league game, he knew he was playing against Nightswatch. It's unlikely that Nightswatch would be playing first snow, so probably knew that if he was ever going to go for a lower curve in a deck, that this was probably the game to do it in. At the minute, looking at the boards, I really think getting rid of that early Randall with that Heads on Spikes really turned the game. Barrie is lacking kind of really impactful characters on the board. Those Rose Road patrols are nice if he can get the highest strength character, but with the ranging party out at the minute, he's going to struggle to do that. Which comes back to the point of Randall. If he'd had Randall out with any sort of strength boost, whether it's Marjorie or anything, he would quite easily controlled as strongest character. So Richard doing his 3 challenges with the Ranging Party, Benjin and the Unsworn Apprentice for the 3rd one, with Jon Snow contributing strength to all 3 of them. Barrie realising this and struggling to figure out a way to oppose them enough to make it impactful. And this is one of the things you quite often see with players who don't play quite so much, is that fear of wondering, is it worth defending a challenge if I'm just going to lose it? So Richard doing an entry challenge, playing with Tears of the Lease on the Rose Road Patrol, remembering to do it after his military challenge, which I made the silly mistake of not doing today when we were playing in Stoke. And Richard claiming a superior claim, which I suppose Barry's probably not too sad to see go, because at the minute it doesn't look like he's going to be winning a power challenge by 5 or more. So I would really, moving into this next round, really like to see maybe a counting coppers from Barrie, because he has got that arbor out despite having played a Pelagavage already. Kind of accounting coppers might help him draw back up, see some more characters, maybe see a Knight of Flowers, which would be really nice against this Nightswatch crossing. Maybe see Marjorie or even Lena to help him out. He's obviously not got anything in his hand because you've still got that King's Road on the board. Barrie going to do a nice cheeky entry challenge with the Arbor Knight. Rich isn't going to defend against it. He's going to leave Jon Snow for dominance because he knows he's just going to be removed with the Mare and Heat. And Barrie claiming the other character that we saw in Richard's hand, getting rid of that Sirio. Barrie going for the power challenge, getting it unopposed. Richard's going to win Dom. Now, I think Nightswatch have kind of quite sneakily reached a point where they might not have a bomb character. They don't have necessarily a Miri, or they don't have a Tywin, or even really a Euron or a Randall. But what they do have is they have quite a lot of 4-5 cost characters that are quite efficient and that have quite nice effects, and in the last couple of packs have got, and are obviously in the final pack of this cycle, going to be getting some cards that are very nice for them, being able to play cards out of your opponent's discard pile. And also I'm imagining what Richard has got is Watchers on the Wall, so be interesting to see if we can see some nice Watcher on the Wall action. Moving into the next round, Richard has got a Calling the Banners, and Barrie has, by the looks of it, played First Snow of Winter. However, that does only leave him with the one character on the board, but maybe he's got enough gold with that King's Road to be able to play something else. I may be proven wrong about that plot though, because it's a bit blurry from where I'm sat. Another Rose Patrol and a little Garden Caretaker. Barrie leaving it standing because he didn't need the money. So that's quite an interesting thing to talk about. Whether it's worth holding on to 1 gold just so that you can threaten the event, or by kneeling the reducer, or whether it's use having that character standing. I think in this situation, when you're behind, it's probably worth that extra character. If you're quite evenly matched, I think it then positions you where that threat forces the other player to play defensively, which gives you a challenge, gives you an advantage in the challenges. Moving into the challenges phase. Barrie just looking at Benjen. I'm assuming he's maybe thinking about trying to kill Benjen, but I'm not sure how he would plan on doing that. Or maybe he's worried about Richard killing Benjen off a military challenge and gaining that power, which will jump him up to 9. I bet in this position Richard probably feels quite in control. Oh, Richard showing off his little plan. He's got a lot of gold still sat there, and what he's shown us is Watchers on the Wall, and also shown us taking the black. So Barrie, military challenge for 4. Just thinking it through. I'm wondering if he's going to play the event. Oh, here it comes. Oh. And listening to them, I think Barrie feels a bit deflated now that kneeling those 2 rangers, killing 2 of Barrie's characters was quite hard. Seeing the taking the black in his hand, I'm imagining he's maybe going to try and take control of that Rose Road patrol as well. So Richard has sacrificed getting his Lord of the Crushing power this turn by kneeling both those rangers, but it has placed him in a position where he's got severe board dominance. So defending that injury challenge with Jon Snow, because what he didn't want to happen is he didn't want to lose that put to the sword or the ghost in his hand. Doing a military challenge in return with the Unsworn Apprentice, just to whittle Barrie's board down even more. And there we have it. Richard playing, taking the black to steal the Rose Road patrol, leaving Barrie with just the Milk Lummers. And Barrie was playing Ranger's Cash. Very sorry about that. It's a card I like, but haven't seen the art for regularly enough yet to be familiar with what it was doing. Barrie decided to draw the cards. I think that's the right call. What he really needs is some more characters. Try to play defensively. Richard, after that round of sacrificing his Lord of the Crossing to take out Barrie's board with Watchers on the Wall, then taking the black, has put himself in a position where he can, despite being on exactly the same amount of power, probably now rush a bit more. And he's going to march Barrie's final character. So it's a draw initiative, draw on power, so they flip a coin. Yeah, so Barrie, realising that if he goes first, he will force his plot to go first, and then Richard, meaning that Richard will be left with two characters to Barrie's 0. Richard has killed his own Benjen to push him up to 10 power. So that wildfire play there, I don't know whether he knew Richard was going to play much to the wall. It was probably kind of, he suspected it with the Lomas there, but has meant that he isn't as behind on board position as he could have been. Yes, he does have 0 characters to Richard's ranching party on Jon Snow, but it does mean that he's not facing Benjin and the Unsworn Apprentice as well as this. So Barrie does have a fistful of his cards from the Ranger's cache, and he's got a fair bit of money from the Wildfire and from the Arbor. Got a little finger in his hand, which would draw him some more cards, but I think if he hasn't seen Knight of the Flowers, the issue becomes with Randall dead and Knight of Flowers obviously not turning up for him, that he doesn't have the characters in a fealty build to be able to come back at this point. This is one of the reasons I personally like banners so much at the minute, is because what it allows you to do is it allows you to put enough good characters in your deck so that even if characters die, you've got other options. And that is, while the fealty does add consistency to deck builds, it does limit you with characters. Barrie getting out the Knight of Flowers with the Merit Heat on him. So, everything I just said could be gone if he can just get out a Chud as well. Is he going to play a Chud? I really hope he's going to play a Chud out as well. Does he have anything in his hand? I can see a little finger and I can see another character. I can't see what character it is. Barrie now realising maybe that it's the wrong thing to do, because what he's now got is he's got a lone Knight of Flowers, and that is going to die to Richard's military challenge. This is the problem. Once your board is wiped, and I've probably mentioned this before, it is so hard to come back unless you've built your deck to be able to do it. With a high cost curve at the minute, that seems to have been kind of resolved itself post first snow, it's really hard to come back from a board wipe. So Barrie, realising Ghost's on the table and he's just going to be stealth past the Knight of Flowers, he's just going to throw it into the challenge. Richard just thinking it through, realising that he'll probably just claim the dupe on Ghost. So he's going to play a reaction to gain 2 extra power from Superior Claim, which puts him on getting the unopposed and getting the claim, and then 1 power on the Knight of Flowers. So he managed to get up to 13, but I think this is now unfortunately going to fall apart. Barrie just double checking how close to winning he got, just 2 power away. He's going to military with Ghost. Knight of Flowers dies. Getting an opposed power. With the Randall now gone, obviously that was the other character in his hand, unable to play it because it was dead. So Richard is 1 away, but it was a tie for dominance. So all Richard needs to do is just swing for a big power challenge in this next turn, and the game will be over, because I can't see Barrie getting enough characters down in this next turn to be able to prevent him doing the power challenge. Oh, very nice play there. Barrie playing out the Calm, which against a normal deck would neuter the power challenge, and if you had characters on the board would stop you from being able to defend all those challenges, stop them getting that power they needed. Richard cleverly playing Clash of Kings, even though he only needs the 1 power, that'll mean that he can get that power from power challenge anyway. Really all that Richard has to do is just swing a challenge with an icon Barrie doesn't have though and get an unopposed. So what this game quite clearly shows you is Nightswatch have some really good tricks. I think that taking the black was really nice, and I think that the Watchers on the Walls was quite decisive, but I think this game really all hinged on that Hits and Spikes first turn. Getting rid of Randall, who would have been on the table with a dupe, would have made this game a very different game. And I think the reason why Richard likes playing Heads and Spikes, what it does is it enables a little bit more variance to a deck. And while sometimes it is just an intrigue to play them out of their hand before they're marshalling, before first turn is when they're probably most likely to have those characters they really want for the rest of the game. There's a reason, if they haven't mulliganed, why they're keeping that hand. So that's our first game in a post-Calm Over Westeros meta. So, thanks for joining us, guys. See you again next Tuesday. Remember, comment below if you've got any advice or any comments for the players involved, or anything for me as well. So, but keep it friendly. These are casual games. See you soon. Bye.